Okay guys, I'm going to do quiz A and B now. Explain some of the things on there. So for number one, every point on the median to a side of a triangle is equidistant from the endpoints of that side. I do not like this question the way it's phrased, but if you said always, it's because you read it a little wrong. Here's the thing. From this point, which is the midpoint, to the side, to the vertices of the triangle, this is always equal. And if you drew a midpoint here, then from here to here it's also equal. And if you drew a third midpoint, okay, then from here to here it's always equal. So if you put always, I'll give you credit. I don't like the question. If it was on a test, I would give you credit, or I'd make it extra credit. Number two, each leg of a right triangle ABC is an altitude of ABC. This is true because if these are your legs, because this is your hypotenuse, because it's a right triangle, then an altitude is a line that goes from a vertex. So let's call the vertices here, let's call them A, B, and C, from a vertex across to the other side of the opposite side of the triangle, and it's perpendicular to that opposite side. So each leg here is an altitude. Okay? And that's always the case. Number three, three angle bisectors of a triangle intersect at a point outside of the triangle. This is never the case because an angle bisector splits an angle into two equal halves. And all three of these angle bisectors have to be inside of the triangle, not outside of the triangle. Number four is a midpoint formula. They want to use the midpoint of BC, so you don't even have to draw a picture. BC midpoint is the x values added up, 6 plus 2 divided by 2, and the y values, which are negative 1 and 3, added up. So, using the midpoint formula correctly, you should get 8 divided by 2, which is 4, and 2 divided by 2, which is 1. That's why the answer is for midpoint of BC 4, 1. Moving along to number 5. So for number 5, they want you to find x and y. Well, the picture gives you the answers basically. This means that these two sides are equal. So if those two sides are equal, you set the equations equal to each other. Remember, when we're doing geometry, usually equations are equal to each other, or sides are equal to each other, or they equal 180, or they equal 90. So it's very rare that you get something different than that. And plus, usually the picture gives you the answer. You just have to be able to look at the picture and get the right answer from the picture. Add 7 here. In order to solve this, you're going to have 3x equals 15. And if you divide by 3, x will equal 5. Okay? Now for the y values. So for the y values, you got to look at the picture again, and it gives you the clear answer. This angle equals this angle because those little marks say they do. And because of that fact, the two equations also equal each other. And when you solve this equation, let's do a little bit of algebra here. If you subtract the 4y, you do not have to subtract 4y from here. You can subtract 5y from both sides. But if you do subtract 4y, you will be left with a positive y value because the 5 is bigger. And if you add 10 here, because it's being subtracted, y will equal 9. Okay? So let's get rid of this and move down to number 1 on the next section. So what you want to do for number 1 is start with the answer 150 and do everything backwards that they did. So If the final result is 150, I'm starting there. The last thing they did was they subtracted by 50. So you have to do the opposite. I want to add 50. That gives me 200. Then they multiplied by 10. So you want to divide by 10. That'll give you 20. Before that, they divided by 2. So you want to multiply by 2. That gives you 40. And finally, the first thing they did was they increased a number by 4, so they added 4. So you want to subtract 4. That's why the answer is 36. So do everything backwards. Start with the number they give you at the end of the sentence and do everything backwards. For number 2, on Tuesday, Elizabeth wrote a check for $147. On Wednesday, she deposited $35 into her account. So right now, she's negative $5. She's in the hole $5. The last thing she did was she deposited $35. That's like adding $35. So you do the opposite. You want to subtract $35. So now she's in the hole $40. When she writes a check, money is coming out of the account. So you want to add that money back in, because you're doing the opposite and going backwards. So when you get this answer, this is your final answer, and that's why she started with $107. Okay? I'm going to stop this recording and go to the next one.